then, the growth has still remained positive. But if you look at it horizontally year by year for Hobart and compare its progress with Tasmania, in 2022, Hobart even had negative growth. And if you compare its year-on-year growth with itself, it's still regressing, still falling behind. Now, let's look at its sibling, Launceston. It's not doing much better either. Only in 2024 did its year-on-year growth surpass that of its parent, Tasmania. The rest of the time, they've just been dragging things down. To put it plainly, they're not dead yet, but from the perspective of long-term economic growth and investment, if you really insist on buying in Tasmania and nothing can stop you, and everywhere else is full, and no matter what you just want to buy in Tasmania, then it's best to avoid these two cities. From my point of view, it's even better to avoid Tasmania altogether. Why? Let me give you an example from Victoria, where I am. Even though people keep saying Victoria is going bankrupt, that Victoria owes so much in interest and all that, how do you explain the fact that Victoria's economic growth over the past 3 years has equaled Tasmania's total economic output over the past 100 years? How do you explain that? Or how do you see this issue? Let's look at it from another angle. How do you view the fact that Victoria's current economic output is 14 times that of Tasmania, and yet, with the same $600,000, you choose to buy in Tasmania instead of Melbourne? Don't you find that a bit ridiculous yourself? There's another thing I want to remind everyone. You really need to be careful. If you do end up buying in Tasmania, or if you already own a property there, you must be very careful in selecting tenants. In other states, you might find a good tenant in 2 to 3 weeks, but in Tasmania, honestly, you should allow yourself an extra 1 to 2 weeks. Why? Because Tasmania has the lowest income in all of Australia. On the other hand, your future rent-to-price ratio, or the ceiling for your rental income, is also the lowest. At the same time, by 2026, there will be 180,000 new homes completed in Tasmania. This isn't just my opinion, it's according to SQM, a professional organization, as shown in the chart. Finally, I want to mention infrastructure. Personally, I think this is just a placebo, not a catalyst. For Hobart, there are 2 major projects. One is the Macquarie Point Stadium with a government budget of around 700 million Australian dollars. Reports already suggest it will go over budget. The second is the government spent another 300 million Australian dollars upgrading Hobart's runway and terminal building. So, in my view, the stadium can't sustain itself, nor does it offer high-paying opportunities. Although expanding the airport can increase capacity without local high-tech industries, such as technology, finance, or advanced healthcare, the people landing on this runway will always just be tourists, and in the end, they'll always fly away. This is like giving a shot of stimulant or a placebo to someone who's physically weak. It looks lively on the surface, you see $1 billion Australian dollars being spent, but once the effect wears off, the local economic structure is still just as single-faceted and the problem of an aging population still exists. In fact, with this airport, people can go to even more places, so it might actually make it easier for young people to leave. The problem of an aging population might actually get even worse. Similarly, what has Victoria done? In the last fiscal year, Victoria invested $1 billion Australian dollars into Frankston Hospital. This kind of infrastructure is what I call a catalyst or retention type infrastructure. Why? Because at its core, it serves the local permanent residents, and it's also an incubator for high